Hello everyone, welcome to the Phillip Siddiq Show. You've heard the stories, you've heard the internet buzzing, now see the film, Spark, a Burning Man story. We have the producers and directors, right?
Yes.
Not Co and Co, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Co and Co.
I want to get it right now, okay. Jessie Deeter here, and then Steve Brown. Welcome to the show, you guys.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Now, tell us about the film, because I saw it. And there are three pivotal points to me. It was the player, I want to say player so bad because I'm from Oakland, the player part, and the little girl, who the family brought her out there, and then the Von, not Doom.
Danger.
Right, Von Danger. Okay, but how'd you guys meet and how'd you guys put this film together?
So there are 60,000 people coming back from Burning Man right now, and they're all trying to explain Burning Man to their friends. And most people don't have any idea what it really is about. You look at YouTube, it looks like a big party, but there's really interesting under the surface community and set of values, and it's been going on for 26 years, and it's a fascinating story under the surface there. So I was really curious about where did these people come from? Why are they doing this? Where is it going? And I wanted to get to know them. For the first time I went to Burning Man in 2006, I wanted to get to know the founders, which I ended up doing, which led to the opportunity to make the film.
Okay, and how'd you get involved with it?
In a way that's much too complicated to get into here. But
Yes.
what Steve had that was interesting was, again, this access to the founders who are at the heart and soul of kind of what's become now a cultural movement for over a quarter of a century. And that, to me, was the stuff of which a film could definitely be made.
Well, I mean, the influence of Burning Man is also in other countries. I think it's South Africa, and some other countries, right there. Yeah, Lithuania, New Zealand, which I didn't know.
And 47 other places.
47 other places, yeah. And for me, watching the film, I just kept reflecting back to family. How they got together in the beginning, and you have your rough spots, but you talk it out, you work it out, and then you move forward to make it bigger, safer, and all that kind of stuff. So let's go back to the chaos 1996. That's when it's just like everything, just the wheels fell off, and the archival footage.
It grew from this really kind of innocent, idealistic vision of let's go to the desert and let's create this new community, a new society, and leave the old world behind. And it got out of control. It got so big it got out of control, and people got killed out there. So all of a sudden, the people who were, the anarchists became the organizers. So you had this kind of freedom versus order, this sort of classic debate.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to have a little bit of governance, otherwise you can't have freedom because it gets out of control.
Yes.
So they went through that, and out the other side came a society and an enclosed space where you had to buy tickets and an LLC and a business running it, and that created order, and that worked for another 15 years. But then we were filming it during the year when that family hit scarcity for the first time, and then a new challenge to all their values. Where are they going to go with it? What does it all mean?
But like a family, I mean, we have John Law, who wonderfully represents kind of this tension, and he represents kind of the anarchistic roots and the cacophony society, and that was very much a farcical, gun shooting, libertarian, like every man, as much as a community, every man for himself family that initially came out in that desert. And then John Law represents those who left, who chose not to. And there's definitely the reason we chose 1996 is there's definitely that moment in which the organization has to choose to mature and grow up and compromise and incorporate, or, as John Law would say, or become the law. And he says he didn't want to become that. And so, we weren't making that scene up at the end of the movie where he's hanging off a building. That's what he
Tribune
does.
building, yes. I said the Tribune
That's
building.
what that man
I saw
does
that,
still, yeah.
And I found that part interesting was you said you had to make the divergence. And there's no hate in between. Okay, nobody came to fight or anything, but you had to, as you said, put some rules down to make it bigger. Because a lot of events I know start small and they get to a certain point where you have to have some type of structure. And then when the, quote, element finds it, then they just, burn it, quote, burn it all down.
Yeah, well, I think that a lot of organizations go through these different phases where you start off with a bunch of idealists and dreamers, then it starts to get big and the whole world wants to go. How are you going to deal with it? You're going to have to change if you're going to get bigger. And they went through that. And so just like John Law left in 96, there's a whole other group of people that left this last year that didn't come back because now that it kind of became more worldly and bigger, not everybody could get in, and they have to figure out how they're going to allocate the tickets. There are a lot of other groups that said, this time we're going to go do our own thing. We still want to be a family. We still want to be a community. We still want to be creative and do these things, but we're going to go someplace else. Yeah. So the fact that they hit limits actually helped blossom this whole, all these different events all over the place that are happening now.
Yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, the film is just incredible. Now, how did they become to trust you? Because we've heard some of the stories of Burning Man. My friends, when they would tell me, man, they said, man, if you want to, just go there. And I'm like, I'm not sure. So how did they trust you not to film those type of scenes? We
were filming everything. But and I think we were filming through some of their most dicey moments and some of their biggest challenges. But I think that generally what we were doing is we were following a particular storyline, which was about people finding this community, finding the ability to really act on their dreams and go to be themselves and to go a new direction in their lives, whether it's the founders and the people in the organization trying to change the world, or artists or being inspired, or people being inspired to become artists. So those are the stories we were following, and they had a lot of ups and downs, but they made it through to the other side.
But it's trust is what you're talking about.
Well, exactly. How did they end up trusting you guys? Because someone could have come in there with a camera and just got those particular X-rated scenes and said, okay, this is what it's about.
Well, they've been burnt before, and that movie's been made before, and that made it more, because of people who've come before, that made our access much more difficult. And so what they did is they had to trust Steve, because he had this experience within the community. He'd kind of been to Burning Man and kind of been through that, and they knew him. And they had to trust me as a filmmaker, and we had to literally kind of give these multiple presentations and kind of prove who we were. And I had this background of kind of a pretty good trustworthy background, and he had his own trustworthy background. And we said, look, you're just going to, at a certain point, they did have to trust that we weren't going to take advantage of people, and that wasn't the film we were making. But I think in a way it was braver for them to give us the access to themselves and their homes and their retreats,
those
and
meetings,
all of their processes that you don't even see in the movie, than it was to allow us onto the playa. There are a lot of people at Burning Man who can be filming. I mean, yes, are there a lot of prurient things you can find? Certainly. But that's not a story.
Right. And we were doing the untold story, not the told story. Some of that stuff
that's
already been told. Some of that stuff has already been told.
That's what your friends are going to already give you. You
they already told me that.
That's not a story. And it's kind of only interesting to the people who live it, as it turns out, that story.
Who's interested in it, so I don't see that. Yeah. Now, the shots you got were I was just blown away. The aerial shots, some of the close-up shots, because I have a lot of filmmakers who do watch the show. What cameras did you use? Would you use the drones? I mean, they're, the aerials. I was like, holy crap. Because you focused on the larger part, and then you guys fine-tuned it right down to, like I say, that little girl and her family.
We knew we wanted, one of the most important things in getting people to pay attention to this film was making the camera work extraordinary and properly capturing the story. And even we wanted the things in the artists' workshops themselves to be as visually compelling and to draw you in as interesting a way as anything out on the playa, because we knew we were going to have to do that as well. And so we hired the best, most talented people we could possibly find, people who were shooting primarily 5D DSLR cameras. So we're doing this syncing and doing
I knew it. Yes, okay.
That was our main camera with the Steadicam. Actually, my cameraman John Behrens is phenomenal. He's got this. He's worked for a decade to get the Steadicam rig, which is very heavy and very cumbersome.
Yeah,
to get
the vest
right
of the arm
to
and then the monitor.
So we did that, and you'll see some of these amazing shots. And then we also did the drone work, and those were smaller. We didn't have the DSLRs on those, and Steve also had people. The skydiving shots were actually skydivers using cameras out of planes.
We have a lot of the intimacy, because it's really very, very personal experience. But then you have to pull back from that and show the scale. So that's why we were using drones. Initially, it was like, can you do it with a helicopter? I knew you had to get it from the air, because there's no way to get a sense of the scale. But if you're too high up, it looks like this little tiny toyland.
Yeah.
But if you start in really tight and then pull back with the drones, you can get a sense of that. And so we did a lot of that. And then the skydivers was part of how do you approach this city in a unique way? I mean, everyone's seen the line of RVs waiting to get in, but there's sort of like a a Dorothy falling into the land of Oz kind of a moment with this, and we were visualizing this shot of like this girl just like falling on her back right into the center of Burning Man, and I found a really amazing skydiver cinematographer who said, I can get that shot, and he mounted my camera on his helmet, and he did 2 takes of that shot.
Just 2?
And well, that's a lot for that shot.
Yeah.
And then he did another one where there were like 16 skydivers in the air all at the same time with these big eels in the air, kind of swirling into it. But what's not really in the movie is that one of the skydivers was diving into his own wedding. He was getting married at the temple. And so there was.
Why did you put that in the movie?
Well, because we also had two of the founders of Burning Man getting married too.
You can't have too many weddings.
Right.
We had, this was one of the babies. We had
you can't have too many burns. You can't have too many weddings. You kind of have to simplify it a little bit.
Yes,
but it'll be on the DVD extras. So there'll be a little.
Perfect. Katie with the heart.
Yes.
Tell us about her. I watched that, and I kind of got a little choked up a little bit. When building that heart meant so much for her to do that, and to see her journey to get from there to, losing your house, all these other things, and then to get tickets, and then to present it to the world.
Yeah, from conception to completion of her very first really big art project, which was totally inspired by going to Burning Man, realizing she was on a path in her life that really wasn't her. She wasn't truly being true to herself, and she came back and she changed. And we were looking for people where we could be capturing, while it was happening, that kind of a story unfolding. And that was really amazingly lucky and beautiful story that unfolded as she went through all those hoops and finally finished it.
We wanted her first. It was important to get someone who was working on their first art project, and this was the first time she'd been working for her mentor Marco on his larger art projects, and so she having the courage and inspired by him to go do that. And we honestly didn't know at certain points whether she was going to make it. We were really rooting for her, but it wasn't certain.
That's true of all the projects.
Right.
We weren't. That's true of Burning Man as a whole. We didn't know Burning Man as a whole was going to make it.
Yeah,
at certain
luck of the
points.
draw. Okay. Well, they gave us the wrap-up sign, the lovely Kelda there. So we're going to wrap up, you guys. The film, Spark, A Burning Man. Please go out and check it out. I guarantee you will not be sorry. Black Rock City. I'm telling you. We've had the co-directors, Steve Brown and Jessie Deeter, on the show. So we will see you again next episode. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
This was freaking